It's time for the Movin The Chains podcast. Your home for high school football coverage in the Palmetto State. Every team, every game, every week. And now your hosts, Kevin Thomas and John Epps.
Welcome in to Movin The Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside John Epps. Jerel, Hendricks back on our board here for our Round 1 South Carolina High School Football Playoff Preview Show, John. We'll get into it in a minute, man. You know, Round 1's always a little bit shaky. You don't get some of the best matchups, but I'm excited that we're now in playoff time, man. Clear the slate for everybody. Here we go.
Yeah, I purposely have not looked past round 1, so I don't project myself for round 2, round 3 games and that kind of thing. I want to be like a coach. I want to take it one round at a time.
I love it. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. If this is your first time, sure to follow us here on Facebook, on Twitter /X, Instagram, YouTube, and more at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. MovinChains.com is our website, our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. We do our live preview show here on Tuesday nights about 7:15 or so. We go live on Facebook and YouTube, break down all of that biggest games, all the biggest games from that week, along with the statewide slate. Go through all of that. We have our recap show comes out on Sundays or Mondays on our podcast. We have great player interviews, coach interviews, food reviews, teams of the week, players of the week, all kinds of great stuff throughout the week as well. As always, guys, get your Movin The Chains merch. Lots of good stuff right now. We got some great T-shirts, a black T-shirt, a navy blue T-shirt, a gray T-shirt, a pink T-shirt as well. Support the boys. You can email mtcgear.sc@gmail.com. Send us an email there. You can message us on Facebook or Twitter as well. Some great Richardson hats, black, gray. Got a black one up here you can see. Lots of great designs there. Some toboggans, a gray toboggan, a black toboggan. John's actually wearing one of the hoodies right now. This is kind of, John, what color do you call that hoodie? I've been told multiple things.
I don't know. Is it stone maybe?
Sure. We got that color. We also have this color here. Logo on the front and back. Hope you guys will support us. Love to have you repping our gear at the games. It's really good stuff. Like I wore my hoodie and my hat last Friday at the Dutch Fork Irmo game. Super comfortable, super good stuff. And, you know, we haven't had the cold weather yet, I wouldn't say, but it's coming for sure here in the playoffs.
It's cold enough for me.
No doubt about it. Well, guys, let's get started now with our Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates games of the week, our CONA games of the week, 5 of the biggest games from across the state. Let's start with a 4A matchup. A couple teams that we've not talked a ton about this year, John, but have really had pretty solid seasons, and that's Crestwood, the Knights, traveling down to the island to take on Hilton Head Island at 8-2. Last week, Crestwood was off. They're averaging 24 on offense, 22 on defense allowed. Hilton Head Island, a big win over Bluffton, 42-7 last week, averaging 35 on offense, 10 on defense. Crestwood, led by quarterback Jadis Williams, running back Jeremy Richardson, defensively Gamble and McMillan. How about this stat earlier in the year? They had Jaden Martin, younger brother of Javion, I believe, from last year, one of our players of the week, had 3 picks in a game. The next week, Deshaun Scriven, 3 picks in a game. So they've got a lot of ball hawks on the back end there for the Knights. Hilton Head, quarterback Derek Ranazuski, they're very run-heavy. Troy Timko, player of the week from last week, had 24 carries for 273 touchdowns. Thaddeus Zarnecki also mixes in. Defensively, Zarnecki had 13 tackles, 2 TFLs. Tristan Simmons had 9 tackles. And defensive lineman Ben Elliott had 6 tackles and 2 TFLs last week. Not an easy road trip going from that Sumter area down to Hilton Head Island. Can the Knights go on the road and take this game, or do you think the Seahawks at home will be too much?
I think the Seahawks at home are going to pull this out. They have played pretty good defensively all year, and they've closed out the season pretty strong. Their last game at Bluffton was a big game, pretty much a de facto, not de facto region championship. I think Bishop England won that.
Yes,
region.
they did.
But big time for seeding, and they killed them.
Yep.
That's a decent Bluffton team as well. A little bit of a rivalry game as well, going just across the bridge. To beat Bluffton 42-7, I think is a really big deal. I think Hilton Head, I think they're playing better football right now. I think Crestwood's a good team. What makes me a little bit nervous about Crestwood, though, it's hard to point out their best win of the season. Maybe Manning, their first game of the year, maybe. And 2 weeks ago, they struggled a little bit with Darlington. And Darlington's a better team this year than they have been, but you're going to dogfight with Darlington. I don't think you're going to beat Hilton Head traveling down there at the long bus ride. That's a lot to ask of these guys. I like Hilton Head in this game. And I think Hilton Head is going to win because of their defense. I think the defense is what's going to separate them in this game Friday.
And a note that I had with Crestwood, I mentioned it, their play against the pass, with what they can do with Martin and Scriven there on the back end. Scriven, however you say it. Sorry about that, buddy, if I got it wrong. They're really good against the pass. Hilton Head doesn't want to throw it. They want to run the ball down your throat. So that maybe kind of negates one of the pluses there for the Knights, because they're going to just be run heavy, not really give them a chance for turnovers and big plays like that. And just going on that's a big road trip, man. We've seen Crestwood make a few trips down that way lately. They played at Buford a couple years back and took them to the limit, had a chance to beat them. So they're familiar with heading down towards the coastline. But, man, that's a long trip, and I feel like you got to lean Hilton Head at home just based off of what Timko and Zarnecki can do on the ground there.
Yeah, and, Crestwood's had some incredible talent the last few years. A little bit of a dip in talent this year. Still a good team. But this Hilton Head team, we should have talked about them a little bit more, and we may be talking about them for the next couple of weeks. I think they get the win here at home.
I think we're going to find out, and I don't want to tease too much as we get into the playoff preview here when we get to 4A in a little bit. But that region, I think, with Hilton Head Island and Bluffton and Bishop England and May River, I think they're all either pretty good or they're all either bad, because they all seem to be very even, a lot of beating up each other and whatnot. It's just hard to say, are they actually really good football teams, or is it just none of them are actually good? I don't know, but should be a fun game there in the 4A ranks to start off between Crestwood and Hilton Head Island. Jerel, who do you like in this game? What's the chat saying? Like I said, 2 teams that we have not talked a ton about this year. Should be a pretty good matchup, though.
Yeah, I like Hilton Head in this one as well. Give them the home advantage, obviously, and then coming off that big-time win. It's hard, John, to point out, the best win for this Crestwood team is because they played a pretty difficult schedule as well. I mean, going against Sumter, Hartsville, South Florence and things like that. R&E when they were at full strength. So that was a close game as well. So Crestwood has played really good football throughout the season. Their record may not show it, but they're a fantastic football team. I just like Hilton Head. I like them playing at home. That's got to be a difficult road trip for anybody that's not in that central, location. But a lot of comments in the chat. It's going to be a lot of fun to get this round 1 kicked off.
For sure. We'll pop some of those comments up here. I'll read through those, and we'll look at our second CONA game of the week. Allison, good to see you. Appreciate you joining us as always. Chris, what's going on, man? Good to have you in here. Big win for the Indians last week. Kevron says, good evening, Movin The Chains from Cope again. Appreciate you, Kevron. Right. Thanks hopping in as always, buddy. Chris said, told y'all not to doubt the Indians. Jerel John had some haters' heart this past week. That's right. You guys.
Not true.
I got it wrong. Hey, Spartanburg blew it. They had a big lead. They blew it.
Dangerous playoffs. Win or go home. Rankings don't matter. Exactly right. We're actually going to do our final poll for the regular season this week, and then we're done until the season's over. Strom Thurmond defense, Jerel says, Cam. That's the Rebels defense, Cam, we were looking for the last few weeks, man. They showed up for sure on Friday. Terrence and Vanessa said, what's up, go Hampton County. Those guys are a sleeper team in the playoffs as well, I feel like there. Zach says, here we go, boys. Put up or shut on Big Red Machine ready to make a run. I agree, man. They have to be one of the favorites, that 1 seed there in upper 2A. Blue Steel says, Bulldog. Man, the Rebs, they didn't win the game technically, but, man, they play well enough to win it. It feels like they had a really nice performance on Saturday. On Friday. Chris says Hilton Head by 21.
Yeah, they might.
Tress says by 14 for Hilton Head. Ozzy says, HKT, let's go. Hey, the Trojans are rolling right now,
Very
man.
good.
Kelly says, go Bishops. Bishop England, the region champs, man. Just an awesome story there, what they've done. Excited to see them get going in the playoffs as well. Danger says, let's go Louisville. They're a big-time 1C. Chris says, what's up? Good to see you, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Congrats to your Panthers on the region title last week.
Let's go to the next game, guys.
Our second CONA game of the week. A really good record matchup here, you could say. We've got a 7-3 Richland Northeast squad traveling to the Golden Corner up there, John, in Seneca is what they call it. Anyway, they're going to Seneca to take on an 8-2 Bobcat squad. R&E was off last week, averaging 28 on offense, 27 on defense. Seneca, a 42-21 loss to Daniel in a game that they had a real chance in early in the first half, maybe in early, mid-second quarter. They were hanging around, kind of got away from it at that point. But this R&E team, for me, is one that's tough to figure out. They started off so well, got to inside of our top 5 after a big Camden win and whatnot. They were rolling with Will Wilson, the NC State commit. He gets hurt. They drop a few games that I was surprised they lost even without him. He comes back, and they still don't play great football once he's back. So I don't really know what to make of this Cav squad. Seneca, a team that I feel like they won a lot of games. 8 wins, you can't shake your head at that. But who did they beat similar to Crestwood? I don't know what their best win is. They lost to Greer, lost to Daniel. Maybe it's a Powdersville game back in, was it week 0? They beat Powdersville, I think it was. And that was by a point, I believe. Maybe that's their best win. I don't know. So 2 teams, I'm really sure to see how this game shakes out, because I think we'll learn a lot about both of them in this matchup.
Yeah, I think, we learned a lot about Seneca in that Daniel game, because I think that game went about how we thought it would, maybe a little bit closer than expected. But that first half, very competitive. Seneca, did a good job. They scored 21 points, more than what just about anybody else does against Daniel. A relatively competitive game. And I think Seneca is getting to play at home is a big deal as well. That's another long trip. We have some long trips in the playoffs. And I think this R&E team is just really struggling to get back on the tracks. Mm-hmm. Since that Camden win, they beat Lancaster the week after that, and they've lost 3 of their last 4 to not great competition. Lost a head scratcher to Dreer. The one game they won was a close one against Short, but they got blown out by AC Floor, who's been playing a lot better. They have been playing pretty good. And then, of course, the machine that is South Point, but they were not even competitive. In that game, in either the AC Floor game or the South Point game. That scares me, because I don't think Seneca is at the top echelon. When you talk about around the state, but against Daniel, the best team they played all year, they were pretty competitive. 2 of the last 3 games that Richland Northeast has played, they have not even been competitive. And that scares me. If they find that chemistry back they had in the early part of the season, that Camden game for sure, they'll have a good chance to win this game. And we talk about Will Wilson, Will Wilson's back and they're just not playing great. They're, offensively, they haven't been doing a whole lot. Defensively, they haven't been doing very well. Their defense was very good in that Camden game. That was a big reason they won. It wasn't like they were just scoring every possession on Camden. That defense was a big part of that win against Camden. That defense has not been there last few weeks. If they can play better defense, they've got a chance. But I think Seneca's in a great spot to win this ball game.
Seneca led by quarterback Gavin Talma, averaging 37 on offense, 17 on defense. Running backs Payson Jones and Amari Werner. Wide receiver, they got a freshman, Jeremiah Hunter, that's a good player for them, along with Colton Hawk. Defensively, DB Raphael Little is a playmaker on the back end for them. R&E, we mentioned Will Wilson, 10,000 career yards, NC State commit, a great player, dual threat, missed some time with injury, but he's back now. Running back Cam Buckley, receivers Blake Batet and Isaiah Small. Batet has had a huge season this year, had a huge year last year as well for Coach Wilson, Walt Wilson there at R&E. And this is a tough one, John, because for me, if I feel like R&E is good, like when they're playing their best football, it's probably better than Seneca's best football.
I agree.
But they're not playing that right now. And can they find that? Can they bottle it up and get going? Here's the playoffs roll. I don't know. But for me, I'll say it, when you have the best player on the field, which probably Wilson is, and at the quarterback spot especially, I'm going to take you to win this game. I'm going to take R&E to win this one, I think.
They have the talent, and they should win this game. They're just not playing like it. I have to see it. I'll have to see it.
But I do want to give a shout out to Coach Crane at Seneca. Man, this is a program that has had some decent years lately, but this is they're a really solid season. 8-2, nice run in 4A. Hats off to them. I think they have some good things on the way as well for the Bobcats. Jerel, thoughts from you? Thoughts from the chat? And can you tell me, is it the Golden Corner? Is that right? Am I making that up? The Golden Strip, Golden Corner? I think it's the Golden Corner.
It sounds about right. I don't know. I've lived in Oconee County for like 3 years, and I can't tell you, so it is what it is. But maybe we can get somebody in the chat jump in and help us out, especially Nathan. He's familiar with that area. But besides the point, I like Seneca. I like Seneca to win this game.
Hillcrest area, Golden Strip. Yep.
Yeah, I like Seneca to win this game. It's another tough trip. Pre-injury for Will Wilson, I say R&E by 2-3 scores, just because he's that good of a player, and we know how important quarterback position is. They can be the real difference maker. But like John mentioned, they're just not playing good football since he's come back. So I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to overcome that. And Seneca has built a program. It's hard because, again, their schedule is kind of light. That's no fault of their own. But when they did play that top level competition, those are the 2 games that they lost. They did catch Powdersville early, week 0. But it's a situation where, how good is Seneca really? I think they're a good team. I think they're going to win this game. But I think R&E is kind of just limping through the finish. But it is a new season. That's the beauty of the playoffs. We could see a situation where they flip that switch and R&E could go on a run. But right now, I'm just not seeing that happening.
Yeah, everybody 0-0. So it doesn't matter what you did now. You just got to strap them up and let's play. But any comments from the chat on that game or just anything in general? Nathan says, different classification, same result. Let the Daniel Invitational begin. The lines are rolling, Nathan, man. They're playing great football right now. Is heading into the playoffs. Zach says, shots fired, everyone in 4A. Nathan's putting them on notice, that's for sure.
Hey, somebody's got to shut them up.
Kate says, everybody's sleeping on Jerel. Probably the toughest in our schedule in 2A. Yeah, and we've got Jerel in our top 5, man. They played great football lately down the stretch. We think the Braves can make a deep run at a South Point conference. Appreciate that. Keith says North Augusta go Jackets. Huge win for them, winning the region on Friday on the field. MJ says South Point for real. They certainly are legit good. Top 2 or 3 team in 4A. You feel like.
So yes, we did get confirmation. It is the Golden Corner. So thanks, Nathan.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathan, for confirming that. Any other comments on that one, Jerel?
Let's roll to the next game, guys.
Our third CONA game of the week, a 5A matchup, a game that's usually a region matchup, actually got canceled this year due to the hurricane. So glad we got to play it now. And that's Boiling Springs traveling to Dorman. Both squads at 6-3. Coach Reel, Coach Morse have done a good job this season. Boiling Springs, a big win over Eastside, 41-0. Averaging 35 on offense, 13 on defense. Led by quarterback Lincoln Husky, went 12 for 16, 180, 2 touchdowns through the air, another touchdown rushing. Running backs Javen Chim and Ryshawn Morgan. Receiver Kyle Patterson has 14 touchdowns on the season, John. He's had a big season for them. Defensively, DB Jeremiah Favorite. Defensive line, led by Glenn Williams and Rogers, really get after it. Their DL, when we saw them play Gaffney, really impressed me. They were disruptive up front and got after it all night long. Dorman, off last week, averaging 22 on offense, 18 on defense. Bryce O'Neal has really stepped up and kind of taken over that quarterback spot. That has been a big issue for the middle of the season. They couldn't score the football. They had nothing going on. They've kind of made the move to O'Neal now, and he's kind of gotten them going a little bit the last few weeks. Running back Nick Means, receiver Keenan Arcega Whiteside, JJ's younger brother. I think he's a Rice commit. He's out wide for them. Defensively, Kentavian Anderson. He's a legit power 4 prospect, getting a ton of camp invites and just game day visits right now. He is a kid that can play some football there for them. Deshaun Robinson as well at DB is a big-time player. I am super excited for this game. We talked about some long road trips. This was not a long road trip here, going from Bowling Springs to Dorman, man. Who do you like in this matchup, John?
This is tough. This is tough for me. I think Bowling Springs might be the better team. I didn't get to see them play yet this year, but saw them play last year. And, they are very big up front. They're a physical group. Lincoln Husky himself is a physical guy in his own right. The way that he plays, they play a very smash mouth style of football. Fun team to watch.
Yep.
Dorman, they're not flashy. They're not sexy. The defense has been the
calling card for
better
sure.
part of their team this year. and they've played some good football lately. Their last 3 games, they've only given up 14 points. And I was looking through their schedule, their worst game defensively. I mean, they gave up 23 to Spartanburg. Other than that, they've done pretty well against everyone except for Greenville in week 1 and Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
The defense has been very, very good. I think Dorman's going to win this game. I think it's a little bit of an upset. I understand that. I think Bowling Springs is probably the better team, probably a little more talented. But Dorman playing this game at home, I think their defense is going to prevail. I think this is going to be a game where we see it. It's like a 14-10 type game, 14-13, something like that. I think Dorman just makes enough stops against Bowling Springs to win this game. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I like Dorman to win at home, though.
Yeah,
in the upset. I know it is.
I like both defenses a lot. I feel like Dorman's defense is maybe a step ahead of Boiling Springs. Just they played a little bit better this season. And I think the way to beat Dorman, you can't just run it at him. You got to be able to throw a little bit, move a little bit. And I think what Husky can do at quarterback gives him that option. I think really a key for me, Lincoln Husky on the ground. Can he get a couple big runs? He's a big scrambler. They've had a lot of design runs for him as well. Can really get it done with his feet. I think Bowling Springs, I think I trust the quarterback situation a little bit more there with what they're doing with Husky. I love the O'Neal kid. He's coming on strong lately for Dorman. But I think Husky, a little more of a non-commodity. I like Bowling Springs in a close one on the road here to win this matchup. But a really fun game. I'm glad we got to see it since it got canceled in regular season play. I'm glad we got to have this matchup here now since I didn't get to play. I guess it would have been week 6 or 7, whenever it was. But glad they got it back on the docket. I'm going to lean Bowling Springs here in a close one, but should be a fantastic ball game over there in Spartanburg.
Yeah, and both of these teams are a scary matchup for anybody because the way that they play good defense, and then you talk about Bowling Springs with Lincoln Husky, experienced physical quarterback. Whoever wins this game, whoever plays them in the second round, they're going to have their hands full.
Yeah, it'd be Dutch Fork. So strap up. But Jerel, any comments from you or the chat on this 5A game? A really cool match. I just can't say how happy I am we get to see this game in the playoffs since we didn't get to see it earlier in the year.
For sure. It's like it was meant to be, right? We were supposed to see this game be played. I agree with both of you guys. I think it's going to be a close game, low scoring as well. I just like, Lincoln Husky, we keep talking about him. I think he just makes a couple more plays, can extend something with his legs, and, they win it, 3-7-point game, something weird, come down to the end of the football game. Both defenses are fantastic. You guys have covered the analysis there. So I just like Bowling Springs to win this one because I'm going with Husky.
Yeah, and one more comment I want to make. Head coach Jake Morris at Dorman has done a great job. This is his second year. Last year had a really down year for them. Started off pretty slow this year as well, John. And people were worried, what's going on here with this program? That's not what they're used to at Dorman. They've really turned it around and had a good season, have finished strong for him. So hats off to him and that Cavalier program, the way they put together a good season here. Chris has Dorman in a close one. I like that, Chris. Nathan says likes the quarterback situation at Bowling Springs. Yeah, same here. I think that's why I'm kind of leaning that way as well. David says Fairfield's a 2A sleeper for sure. And they're one season. It's hard to make them a sleeper, but they are certainly a team that maybe a little bit overlooked. Jonathan says Buford coming to Kellytown. Another long road trip there for the Eagles. I think the Hartsville Red Foxes are rolling right now.
It's going to be a long road trip back, too.
Kelly says the play is going to be competitive. A lot of teams. Kelly, I'll say too many teams. I'll say that. This first round especially is really tough, but we'll have some really good games. We'll get into the second and third round for sure. But I think, round one, we say it every year, man, 3A, nobody misses the playoffs. Everybody makes the playoffs in 3A. Is that not too many?
Look at 5A. There's one game in 5A that I'll talk about when we get to it. It shouldn't be a game.
Yeah.
One of those teams should not be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Any other comments on that one, Jerel? Snap, Jake, former NGU beast. Yeah, Jake Morris, man, getting it done there. An alum of Dorman as well. Great to see those guys go back home and have success.
Yeah, let's go to the next game, guys.
Our fourth CONA game of the week, maybe my favorite game of round one. Because there's two teams that I've had a hard time figuring out this year. It's a big 2A matchup. It's Strom Thurmond, the Rebels at 6-3, traveling to take on the Chester Cyclones at 4-5. Strom Thurmond, an 8-7 loss to Batesburg Leesville last week. A bit of a weird storyline where, going into the game, John, they had to win the game by 13 points to win the region. If they won by less than 13, they're finishing third. If they lose, they're finishing third. So, Coach Webb got to a situation late in the game where he decided to go for it on a fake punt because he knew he had to win by more than 7. Didn't convert. Batesburg-Leesville scores to win the game. And, it is what it is. The Rebels played well enough to win the football game, which is really impressive last Friday. Averaging 30 on offense, 11 on defense. Chester was off last week, averaging 30 on offense, 16 on defense. This will be the Cyclones' first game in 21 days. That's a bit of a worry for me there, John. What do you like in this 2A matchup? These are two teams that, like Chester especially, preseason, they were, I think, top 3, top 2 in the polls.
I was very high on them.
Quarterback Trooper Floyd gets hurt early in the year. They lose a bunch of games. He comes back. They play a little better. They lose some more games after that. Strom Thurmond, a couple weird games, down the stretch where they didn't play their best against Saluda. I was surprised giving up 35 points. Didn't see that coming. Two teams I don't have a great grasp on, it feels like, in this one.
Yeah, both teams, they've had similar seasons, really, because they've both won a good bit of games, but when they've played their best competition, they haven't been able to close it out. They haven't been able to win. Now, the situation for Strom Thurmond Friday, I think, was a lot different. I think if that was a game that was in, first or second game of region play, Strom Thurmond probably wins that game 7-0. You're not playing with the points like you were this past Friday. So that you can't look at that 8-7 and go, oh man, they just, close game and they lost. But there's a reason why, big reason why Batesburg-Leesville scored their one touchdown, right? I think for Strom Thurmond, again, their toughest games, they've lost. Both teams, though, in every one of those big games, Chester against Fairfield Central, against Saluda, they've been competitive, just like Strom Thurmond. Competitive against Batesburg-Leesville, competitive against Saluda.
North Augusta as well, competitive in that game.
Augusta, just have not been able to win those games. So both of them are definitely good teams, and they can win those games against good teams. They just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
One was going to do it Friday.
Yeah.
And you could argue whoever wins this game Friday will be their best win of the season to this point. I think certainly if Chester beat Strom Thurmond, considering what Strom Thurmond did last week, I think this will be a really good game. Some good talent on the football field. And this game will be in Chester, which is an awesome environment, awesome stadium for a game. I like Strom Thurmond to win this game, though. I think they are playing a little bit better, and they've just been, in my opinion, I think they've been a little more consistent this year. They played really good defense last week. I think Strom Thurmond is going to – I think this will be the close game that they win. I think they're just a little bit better, a little bit more consistent than the Cyclones. But it should be a really, really good ball game and two really talented teams. If we talked about in the preseason, hey, we're going to have a first-round matchup of Strom Thurmond.
I think they were like 1-3 in the preseason poll. I think they were way up there.
Yeah, we were like, they might play each other, but not in the first round.
Yeah.
So this is a real treat to get this matchup here.
One thing that I've liked to see lately is the Rebels' pass offense has kind of come along. Early on in the year, they could not throw the ball very well, but last week, Bryshawn Lee, 16 for 26, 200 yards. Jay Sewell had 7 catches for 94. I like that they've gotten that going now for Coach Webb. Running back Deontay Phillips is a playmaker. Athlete Caleb Simpkins, he's a stud on both sides of the ball. I like watching him play a lot. Defensive line, Josh Merriweather, a north-south guy, 5 tackles, a TFL. He's a monster up front for them. Cam Blacks had 9 tackles. Gregory Moore had 10 tackles, 2 TFLs. They really shut down that high-power Batesburg-Leesville offense that has been lighting up everybody. They did a great job on that side of the ball last week. On the Chester side, Trooper Floyd, like I said, a dual threat guy at quarterback there. The running back Taylor is a big kid for them. Receivers Pendergrass and Zeke Evans. Defensively, you got to talk about Terry Radford, the defensive lineman at Chester. These are season stats for a defensive lineman, John. 93 tackles,
Very nice.
23 tackles for loss, 15 sacks in 9 games. Terry Radford is a monster up front. You have got to block him. You got to account for him every single play. Demarion Baxley, Tamari Caldwell as well on that side of the ball for the Cyclones. This is a huge game to me. Obviously, it's a playoff game. Of course, it's big. But I think whoever wins this game, they've got a super tough matchup with Clinton in round 2. But if you get a win like this, where you beat a really good football team, that could propel you to making a deep run in the playoffs. I mean, you mentioned it, getting some confidence. You hadn't, beat a big team this season. These guys haven't. You win over somebody like this caliber, you could really be propelled to make a deep playoff run.
Yeah, I agree. I think if and for me, it's a little. I think the situation's a little bit different for both teams, and that's because I think Strom Thurmond is playing a little bit better. But if Strom Thurmond wins this game by double digits, they're going to have a ton of confidence.
Yeah.
Rolling into that Clinton game, because they can go, hey, we can do what Fairfield Central did. You know, Saluda beat them too, but yeah, hey, we are ready for the playoffs. Look out. And if Chester, on the other hand, if they beat Strom Thurmond, they're going to roll in that Clinton game and go, hey, we know we're good.
Yeah.
We just proved it. Now we're clicking. Now we know how to play. So I think for either side, you're exactly right. They're going to come in with a lot of confidence. And you're going to have to. You're going to have to come in that Clinton game with a lot of confidence. That's going to be a tough matchup either way.
I think we're looking at a really low-scoring game here. I'm thinking maybe like 20-14, like 17-7. I don't know. I think when we're thinking low-scoring here, I'm going to go Strom Thurmond as well, because I think the football gods are looking forward to a Coach Andrew Webb Strom Thurmond matchup going back to Clinton in round 2.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Strom Thurmond here to win this one, because I think we're getting a Coach Webb back in Clinton reunion here, the second round of the playoffs. Jerel, what do you like in this one? What's the chat thinking? I'm sure we got a bunch of comments on this matchup.
No comments in the chat. I don't know what they're thinking. No, I'm just kidding. There's tons of comments in the chat. Man, this one's fun. I didn't realize that Chester had not played in 3 weeks, so that's obviously you would think a disadvantage. Just being rusty. Especially opening up the game. And then I'm a big psyche guy, big mentality guy. When you look at Strom Thurmond, it's a benefit. Hey, we played with Batesburg-Leesville. Like, we were in that game. We feel like we outplayed them, but we didn't win. So what are they going to take from that? Are they going to use it as motivation, or do they let that heartbreaking loss beat them twice? So that's a situation there. I think they rally around Coach Webb, and I think they perform well. However, I'm going to go with Chester to win this game in a close one, just because I get to pick against you two guys. So that's my only rationale. It should be a fantastic football game. I'm excited to see it, and we'll get to these mountains of comments. I'll try to keep up with them. They keep popping in, so we'll do it that way.
Looking forward to it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Looking forward to it. And Tony says Rebels. I like that.
Sorry, I can't even keep up with it.
I think it's going to be heavy Strom Thurmond.
Brandon says winner if we rewarded with Clinton. Yeah, I think that second round matchup too is going to be a heck of a ball game. Probably a game of the week for next week too, as we look forward.
That's a tough second round.
Cam says they're going to continue to prove Jerel wrong. I love it.
I don't know how he proved me wrong.
I heard the Rebs have just a picture of Jerel just right in the locker room right now. He
called an upset, so I don't know how I was wrong
it
there.
For motivation. I love it. Rebs by 2 TDs says Trez.
Be big.
Bulldog says shut BL down the entire game. They really did. I mean, that touchdown drive, I think, was like 15 yards, 12 yards. So they didn't have to go anywhere to get that touchdown.
Offense. They can run and throw the ball.
Rebs, they play defense like they did against us on Friday. Yeah, that's the defense too that I was expecting against Saluda, because we saw them play North Augusta. The Rebels defense looked great. Saluda scored 35. I was like, what is going on here? Do they not have the defense anymore? I don't know. But they showed up again last Friday. Mitchell, good to see you. I appreciate you joining us as always. Doing well tonight. Hope you are too. Tay says Rebels by 14. PCCW, I love that Bulldog. Strom Thurmond by 7 says Ruddy. Chester by 3, no disrespect, but Chester's a sleeper team, turn the season around. And that's the thing, too, where if they're healthy, they're a very good football team. Similar to R&E. They were playing football, got hurt, not playing good. They have not really got back to the level I thought they would, even with Floyd back, but I'm sure they'll be in for a big battle on Friday. MJ says pulling for Chester County and York County, Louisville, Chester, South Point, and Northwestern. Love that. A lot of really good teams in that group, MJ, for sure. Chester has stepped up. It'll be a close game going with Chester, says Bradley. So we got a good mix of both sides, I feel like, tonight. I love to hear that. Ruddy says 3 weeks they're in trouble. Yeah, that is a long time. I mean, obviously it's a good time to get healthy, but I don't feel like you want that going into the playoffs, because any kind of rust, you can be gone right away. So a lot of time off.
Defensively, they're good enough. I don't think the game's going to get away from anybody.
Hey, Bulldog. I mean, I know you want to talk about being a Clemson fan.
Good comment, Bull. I like that.
He's going through this shock as his dogs lost another game this year. So I don't know.
They're in a must-win situation now.
Oh, that's good.
Let's go to the next game, guys.
That's good. Our 5th CONA game of the week, our SCISA game of the week, a round 2 matchup here, John. Hilton Head Christian at 7-3, traveling to Wilson and Hall at 10-1, a 3A matchup here. Hilton Head Christian 42-7 over Florence Christian, 34 on offense, 24 on defense. Wilson Hall 25-14 over John Paul, 29 on offense, 13 on defense. Hilton Head quarterback Reed McCollum 9 for 16, 163 touchdowns through the air, 11 for 126, 3 more TDs rushing. Receivers Strom and Cunningham. Defensively, Hamilton Butler went 12 tackles, 2 TFLs. Helmstetler had 11 tackles. For Wilson Hall, Coach Adam Jarecki. Quarterback Owen Myers is a running and throwing threat. Running back Cam Whisley. Defensively, Howell, 5 tackles, 4 TFLs. Peyton Gilly, 5 tackles, 2 TFLs. Wilson Hall played really good football this year. Had some injuries kind of mid-season that kind of worry you a little bit. Are they back to full strength? They're ready? Not? I don't know. But Hilton Head Christian seems to be rolling right now, John. I know they're going on the road, but can they continue that hot streak?
I think Wilson Hall wins the game. I think both teams, obviously, where they are right now here in the playoffs, obviously pretty good. I like Wilson Hall at home. I think they're a little bit better. Only blemish on their season is that loss to, I think it's Pinewood.
Yes,
Pinewood,
yes, I believe so.
One loss.
Who's very good.
Very, very good. I like Wilson Hall in this game.
I'm agreeing with Wilson Hall as well. They have a tough offense, man. That running scheme there that Coach Jarecki runs is a key, I think, for really keeping the ball away from Hilton Head as well. McCollum can sling it and run it. They put up a lot of points. I think if the Barons can control the clock, I think that's big for them. I think they advance to the 3A state title game. Probably a rematch with Pinewood coming here in a couple weeks, but I like Wilson Hall as well. Jerel, how about you in this 3A matchup here between Hilton Head Christian and Wilson Hall?
I'll keep it brief. I got to agree with you guys. I'll go with Wilson Hall as well. Man, you just can't deny their scheme and what they've been able to accomplish this year. Only blemish to Pinewood Prep. There's no shame in that one. So great season so far. I think they continue it.
The one thing for Hilton Head Christian, they have a championship pedigree. They have won a lot of state titles lately. They have a group that expects to win. Wilson Hall has not, really been there lately. So we'll see how that plays in, but I think Wilson Hall does win this game. Any comments on that one or anything else we need to address right quick, Drill, in our CONA games of the week? Alice has come to the 8-man match of the week. Richard Wynn and Wardlaw, great game. Yeah. Wardlaw knocked off Holly Hill. We get the third matchup between these two this year. Richard Wynn has taken the first two over Wardlaw. Can they get some revenge? We'll see. But the Eagles are playing great football down there in that 8-man semifinal for sure. Yeah, Cam, turn me up. Wardlaw, huge winner over Holly Hill. It certainly was. I think it was like a 46-44, 44-42 game, something like that. Great performance by Wardlaw. Colt Bailey had a huge game as well. Great win for those guys. Courtney Webb says, hey, guys, good to see you, Courtney. Appreciate you joining us as always.
Let's see. I think I got yelled at for picking North Augusta. Outside of that, let's keep rolling, guys. Picking against North Augusta, sorry.
Once again, our CONA games of the week. We had Crestwood at Hilton Head Island, Richland Northeast at Seneca, Boiling Springs at Dorman, Strom Thurmond at Chester, and Hilton Head Christian at Wilson Hall. Once again, if you missed those games, you can check them out at the beginning of the show. When we get finished, they'll still be on here. You go back and watch it. Once again, those are our CONA games of the week. Jerel, shout out some friends of the program before we start looking down the rest of the playoff brackets here in round one.
A single moment can ignite a passion. With every play, a spirit of teamwork is forged, and determination evolves into success. Life is the ultimate team sport, and a trusted teammate makes all the difference. Our team at Founders Federal Credit Union works hard every day to offer the financial tools you need, backed by unrivaled member service. Relax, you're with Founders.
The George Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgeagency.net. That's thegeorgeagency.net. Let's take a look, John, at the 5A ranks. What we'll do, guys, we'll roll through this week's games. We'll pop up the bracket on the screen. We'll do maybe some favorites and sleepers, and also do our everybody's favorite game show, how many teams can win state, and give our names at the end, or game numbers at the end there. Drill, comment for you on this.
Can we do a special request? Can we start at 1A this year? Would that be too much?
Sure. Okay, down to 1A. We're going to start at the 1A ranks this week. John, pull up some 1A. Let's look through 1A and go up from there, I guess.
Yeah, we'll start at the upper state level. Abbeville will be hosting C.A. Johnson. Blackville Hilda at home against McCormick. Lamar is at home against Whitmire. Lee Central hosting Calhoun County. Then you have Hunter Kenner Tyler at home against Maccabee. Dixie hosting Williston Elko. Louisville at home against Calhoun Falls. And Ware Shoals will host Ridge Spring Minetta. Now flipping over to the lower state side. Baptist Hill hosting Latta. Bamberg Earhart at home against Bethune-Bowman. Branchville at home against Johnsonville. Lakeview hosting Hardyville. Denmark Olar at home against Carvers Bay. Hannah Pamplico hosting Military Magnet. Scotch Branch will be at Ridgeland. And Cross hosting Green Sea Floyds.
I'll tell you, John, looking at the 1A bracket, I don't see a whole lot of really good football games here in round one. I think Dixie, Williston, Elko could be good there. The Hornets had a good season, won a lot of games. Williston Elko has been surprisingly good as well. They've done a good job down there. Outside of that, Ware Shoals RSM kind of jumped off the page at me. Two teams that I think have some potential there. I think whoever wins that's probably going to lose to Louisville round two. But I think RSM probably the better football team there. In the lower state, Denmark Olar Carvers Bay is the one I've got circled. I think Denmark Olar, they've got some athletes there. Carvers Bay, more of a big physical team, have not quite put it together this year. But I think Denmark Olar probably the favorite there, should probably win that one. And then Baptist Hill Latta, that's a good matchup too. You know, Latta is really run heavy, while Baptist Hill wants to spread it out there for Coach Brown and sling it all around the yard. I think Latta, if they can control the clock, they can win that matchup, but it should be a fun one. Just not a whole lot really in this 1A slate in the round one that gets me super excited.
Yeah, and, you know, with 1A and, you know, the question earlier, hey, do we have too many teams in the playoffs? You look at this bracket and you got to go, we probably do. I think there's a handful of some pretty doggone good teams in 1A, and here in the first round, they're playing some teams that just are not at that level, not too close. Hopefully we see some close games, but I think here at the 1A level, we're going to see a lot of 42-7 type ball games this Friday.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the big games, Abbeville, Lamar, Louisville, Cross, Lakeview, Bamberg Earhart. I think all the big guys, I think, win by a lot. I don't think it's really going to be competitive in those matchups. I think they continue playing in the next week. Another one I want to mention too, Branchville and Johnsonville. Johnsonville, two-time defending lower state champ, have not had the season they have, had the last couple of years. They've lost a ton of guys. Branchville, a really good record this year.
Yeah.
They got hammered by Cross. That wasn't a good look there for them. They lost to Hardyville as well down the stretch. I think Branchville's a pretty good football team, but always hard to count out a Coach Cribb Johnsonville bunch that we know has the pedigree to make a deep run. I like Branchville in that one, but Johnsonville's a team you can't sleep on.
Yeah, and it's hard to pick Johnsonville going out in the first round.
Yeah.
As good as they've been the last few years, but this Branchville team's pretty good. They had a couple bad games, but for the most part this season, they have been very, very good. I think I had them in my top five once or twice this year. I think Branchville wins this game. You just got to get over that logo on the other sideline.
Yeah.
You got to believe in yourself, have that confidence. But I think Branchville, they should take care of business here.
Yeah. Jerel, any comments from you or from the chat on these round one games here in 1A? Cam likes RSM for West Shore. I think so too, man. I think that's one of the better games, but I do like RSM to win that one. Go HKT, says Ozzy. Yeah, I think they roll, man. Maccabee's not a bad football team. They've got some hard hitters as well. They got a really big kid. I think at the safety position is a good player for them. But HKT is just playing too good right now, man. They're playing awesome football. A couple of 60 balls, playoffs week one. I agree, Adrian, man. It's gonna be a name your score for a couple of schools here in the 1A ranks this week. Abbeville, another bye, says JD. I mean, you said it, not me. Yeah, I think Abbeville rolls. Also in this
is
one
of the better 5 seeds, but I don't see them giving Abbeville too big of a fight.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I just agree. I agree with you guys. I think the first round in 1A it's going to be a little difficult for some of these teams, but we should start heating up. I'm looking forward to the later rounds, especially in the upper state bracket. It should be a lot of fun to keep up with.
Well, let's get into that. Who are some, maybe a favorite or two of you guys, maybe your favorite sleeper as well, and then we'll do our numbers here at the end. I mean, obviously, everybody talks about Abbeville. I mean, they're a favorite in 1A. I think outside of that, I like Louisville a lot. What HKT has done can't be, overlooked. They've had a really good season in the upper state. Lamar as well is always a tough program. Team like Blackfield Hilda has the talent to get hot at the right time. Lower state, I think it's not as deep. It seems like to me, Bamberg Earhart, really good program there. Cross, I think it's good as well. But who are a couple guys that you guys look at? I just named off half the teams in the damn bracket, I feel like there. Give me your favorites. I'll give you mine. Then we'll talk through some sleepers as well.
Yeah, I like Hunter and Tyler. I think they're playing really good football.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that they're going to win the state championship, but I think you look at that lower half of the upper state bracket, you could see them playing Louisville later in the year.
You already beat them was the problem, though.
Yes, but that's a big improvement for this team,
mm-hmm.
for this program. And if they could get to that game, which would be a upper state semifinal game, that's a big deal. And I got nothing against Louisville, but they've lost some big games in the playoffs before. They are, if anything, they are a little susceptible come playoff time. But I think Hunter Karen Tyler is one. If people don't have them on their radar, they'll be on the radar this playoff run.
Yeah, and one for me, it's hard to consider them a sleeper, I guess. Being Lamar, they're a 2 seed. I think they've got a really nice run up to that third round where they play probably Abbeville there. I think they've got a good chance to win a couple games in the playoffs. And a team that I want to circle here, there's really 2 that I kind of want to circle here, and that they will match up possibly in the second round here. And that's HP or Denmark Olar. I like these 2 teams on offense a lot down there in that lower half. I think one of those teams can certainly make a run. Cross we think is pretty good, but I could see an HP team or a Denmark Olar team getting hot. Denmark Olar played Bamberg pretty tough a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think either one of those guys are a team to look out for. Could make some noise what they can do offensively. Could make a little run there in the lower state.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any sleepers this year. I don't think so. I think Denmark Olar's good, but I don't think that, when I look at sleepers, I think people who can make like deep runs, and I just don't see that right now. And then we'll just get down to the next question that the people want to know.
Yeah, so John, Jerel, and I did a little exercise this week. We talked about it. We actually put a post up today for it, and we did this last year. It was a lot of fun. Is basically how many teams right now do we think can win the state title in this class? Now, don't say the teams. Don't say, just give me your numbers. Who wants to go first with their number here in 1A?
I'll go first. I'm going with, and I went a little high because I think it might be 1, but I'm going to say 3.
Jerel, what do you have?
I'm going to go 1. I'll explain. I think there's 1. And the reason why I say there's 1 is because I think this state champion comes out of the upper state, and I think it's more top heavy this year that way. So I'm going to go 1 because I think it's going to be like a cannibal type effect where some really good football teams are going to get taken out earlier than they should because it's top heavy in 1A upper state.
Well, I've got both of you guys beat. I got 4. I think there's 4 teams. And it's actually, I'll tell you, it's a 2-2 split, 2 upper, 2 lower. Because I think really, like you guys said, the upper state, I feel like has probably the, I guess, bigger, more name-worthy teams. I mean, you think about a Lamar, Louisville, and Abbeville, HKT. Even looking at somebody like Blackfield Hilda that we had in our top 5 for a long time with the great athletes there, like with Williams and Holman and Anderson. I think the upper state is going to be really tough to come out of. And I think lower state, it's a bit of an easier path for a team like a Bamberg Earhart or somebody like that to make a good run. So I've got 4 is what I've got. Any comments from the chat on this, Jerel, on their numbers? We're thinking in general. Heather says 2. She agrees with Jerel there. Nathan says it's 1. Hard not to go 1. Corn says 2 as well. Dangerous Louisville lost a traditional 1A school in 3 years. Great point there. Last year they lost to St. Joe's in the playoffs. I think Oceanside, a charter school back in week 1 or 0. And then they had lost to Christchurch year before that. Ozzy says HKT will go. They've got a tough matchup in a couple rounds when you get to Louisville again for sure. Cam says 3.
That's the numbers we have for this so far.
Perfect.
My 3 is generous. Generous 3.
Okay. And, it's funny. I watched back our preview show from round 1 last year. We did this, and there were a couple classes where we were like, oh, it's only 2. Neither one of those teams won states. So we're not the best at this. We try hard, man. But let's take a look, John, at the 2A playoff bracket now.
Yeah, so in 2A, we'll start in the lower state here. Barnwell hosting Academic Magnet. Timberland at home against Lake City. Jerel hosting Edisto. East Clarendon at home against Andrews. Manning hosting North Central. Hampton County at home against Woodland. Philip Simmons at home against Mullins. At Whale Branch hosting Kingstree. And then the upper state, you got Saluda at home against Mid Carolina. Central Pageland hosting Landrum. Chesney at home against 96. Fairfield Central at home against Chesterfield. Andrew Jackson will travel to Liberty. Columbia goes to Batesburg-Leesville. Talked about one of our CONA games of the week, Strom Thurmond traveling to Chester. And then Pelion will be at Clinton.
I'm super excited for this 2A bracket. There are a lot of really fun games. We mentioned Chester, Strom Thurmond, obviously. I think Liberty, Andrew Jackson's a good matchup there, too. Liberty has been a upstart team this year, had a good season. Lost to Clinton, came in, I think, second in that region due to that loss there. Andrew Jackson has kind of been up and down. They've got some good talent there. Fairfield Central, interested to see how they shake out against Chesterfield. I think they win that game. Chesterfield has been a tough team to read the last few weeks, but they can put up some points.
Yes.
See how that one shakes out there. Chesney 96 should be a good matchup, I feel like, along with Central and Pageland. Central Pageland against Landrum, I think those both could be good games there. But the game that I really want to see in 2A outside of the Chester Strom Thurmond game is Timberland Lake City. That one really intrigues me. Two big physical teams. Lake City has had some nice wins this year, along with Timberland. These two teams actually played earlier in the year. Lake City won a close one, maybe in overtime actually in that game. That should be a lot of fun between the Panthers and the Wolves. But just comparative to 1A, I feel like there's a lot more talented football teams, a lot better ball games. I mean, East Clarendon Andrews is a good game there. Hampton County Woodland's a good game. Philip Simmons Mullins. Mullins got a great record. I think they're probably not quite at the level of Philip Simmons right now. But then even Whale Branch Kingstree are two more good football teams down there. Should be a lot of fun here in 2A in round one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that I don't know. We'll get to our question here, and I think it's going to be fun to see what our numbers are for 2A. But there's a lot of teams that in 2A, I mean, I think, and I just said, hey, there's too many teams in the playoffs. With 2A, I think you could make the argument that's about right because I think if you look at all the favorites in these round one games, man, if you throw all those teams into a pot, you got a lot of parity, a lot of competition. And I think you could just draw names out of a hat and have a lot of very competitive games in 2A. And there's a lot of teams that, you know, I don't know if we know how good they are. We talk about Fairfield Central. We talk about Chester. You know, how good really are they? Timberland, Lake City, Jerel. You know, this is going to be a really, really fun bracket to see play out.
If you're looking for upsets, I think you look obviously at Lake City. Timberland. There's a chance there in that one. I think Andrews as well, if they're healthy against East Clarendon, there's a chance for that one. And then the other one I saw a minute ago I wanted to mention, I don't even know where it was now. But yeah, a lot of football games here in round one. I think there should be a lot of competitive games here in this 2A class in round one. Jerel, comments from you or the chat on the 2A first round slate that is much better than the 1A slate. Jerel, no comments from Jerel, I don't think. Anything else, John, you want to mention on round one? MJ says Straw's lower state. Yeah, so that is that was a hybrid region. I think the 1 seed and maybe the 3 seed went to lower, 2 and 4 went to upper or something like that. So they did go to the lower state due to winning their region. He likes Fairfield Central there in 2A. Cam says close for Clinton in round one. You know, Pelion, I feel like is probably not quite to that level. We'll see. I think Clinton's a really good football team. We'll see how that one shakes out. Primo says Saluda's going to Columbia. Hey, you know, they've got some talent, especially on the defensive side of the football. It feels like they could get hot and make a run. I like where their bracket sets up for those guys as well. Who are some favorites? Batesburg-Leesville all the way says Keon. They have to be right there. I think they're number one on our poll right now. So we certainly think highly of the Panthers. Who are some favorites, maybe sleepers that you like, John, or you, Jerel, if you're able to pop in as well?
I think I'm not going to say necessarily a sleeper, but I think a round one game that's going to raise some eyebrows and be closer than people think. I think that Chesterfield-Fairfield Central game is going to be a ball game. I think that's going to be – I think Fairfield Central wins the game, but I could see that being a single-digit ball game. I think that could be a pretty close game. I think the Chesterfield offense is good enough to be really competitive in that ball game. And I think I'm going to try to not pick a 1 seed to be a little bit fair.
Yeah.
But one of my, I think, sleepers, and they really don't feel like a sleeper to me, is Hampton County.
Yeah.
And they got a really tough, they've got one of the toughest round one matchups in Woodland, a Woodland team that's very solid.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Hampton County team, and you look at that lower state bracket, it's pretty up for grabs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Hampton County can make a run and get to the state championship if they're really playing hot. You look at Barnwell, the upper level, Straw playing, good football. That Hampton County team, they're one of my favorites to make it to Orangeburg.
Yeah.
I think they are a very, very good team, better than what their record shows.
There's two things. First, I want to mention this one game, and then we'll get to a separate team. But this one game I want to mention here, Whale Branch and Kingstree. Those two teams I think are always sneaky, it feels like, in the playoffs. Whale Branch has played good football. Lost a 7-point game to Barnwell a couple weeks back. They were a really good football team there. And then Kingstree with Coach Smith, they've done a good job turning around. They got some athletes there. They could make a run because how good is Philip Simmons? We don't know. We'll find out in round 2. But those two teams could get a little bit hot. And then how about this team that I think they're 8-1 on the year? And we have said maybe 10 words about them, it feels like. And that's Manning.
Yeah,
the Monarchs coming down from 3A to 2A, just continue to roll for Coach Kennedy there. That region is not the toughest they're in, so it's been hard to get a good read on them, it feels like. But they're always a program that competes at 3A level. I think they're poised for a good run. I know they're a 1 seed, not really a sleeper, but just a team that it feels like they're super overlooked right now.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the 1 seeds, they're a 1 seed that probably a lot of people aren't expecting to make a big run. Considering their other counterparts. I tell you what, I think Philip Simmons beats Mullins too.
Yeah,
I think that's got the ingredients to be a very competitive ball game too. Mullins had a great season. Beginning of the year was much better than how they've closed it, but they played some really good football this year.
Yeah, Jerel, any comments from you on the 2A bracket before we get into our teams that can win state? I guess.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most, this has the most intriguing, first round matchups, top to bottom in 2A. I think there's a lot of, there could be some upsets here. I do like Philip Simmons as a sleeper as well in Hampton County, as John mentioned. So I like those coming out of the lower state. I think those are going to be some teams that we need to keep an eye on. Okay.
So how many teams do you guys think can win state in 2A? Who wants to go first this time? I'll go. I'll say this. I'm trying to decide how to frame this because my list is all over the place. I've got 9.
Okay.
Oh, geez. 9.
Way more than that.
Well, I've got 9 and then 2 more question marks. So maybe 11.
11?
Maybe 11.
I like to narrow my list a little bit more. I'm going to go with 5. I think that's a good number to actually win state. I think 5 teams here.
I've got 7, and I feel I was very generous in my 3 and 1A. I honestly feel like 7 is a good number. I look at these teams, and Batesburg-Leesville has been number 1 in 2A all year. They got outplayed by Strom Thurmond last week. If you think Batesburg-Leesville can win the state championship, you got to say Strom Thurmond has got a chance to win the state championship. You got to say Saluta's got a chance.
Yeah.
There's I think 9 is not crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you what, out of that, if you add 9 and 2, get the question marks in there, out of those 11, 4 of those play each other in round 1. So I'm going to lose 2 of those right away. But there are 2 pods, like I talked about them, and I'll say it. I mean, one of them's our game of the week. I think both those teams can win state. And there's another pod that I think both teams could win too if the things break the right way and they get hot. So I'll lose a couple of mine right off the bat. But I think if things go the right way, they can make a deep run to Orangeburg and be right there in 2A.
I'm trying to figure out who your second asterisk team is that's playing on the road in round 1, and we may have to not talk about betting. But
I'll tell you guys who. Okay,
maybe a lunch bet.
So obviously we mentioned the game of the week. I think both those guys could do it. The other one, Timberland Lake City. I think both those teams, if things break the right way, can make a deep run. If one of those teams, I mean, whoever wins that game, I think they will give Barnwell everything they want in round 2. Either one of those teams. I think they've got a good shot to make a deep run. So that's how I got to my 9 + 2, 11 total there in 2A. Any comments, Jerel, from the chat on that one? Anything else going on before we keep rolling here?
We may have lost our Facebook stream, so I'm going to try. I'm sending a comment out right now, so I think we're having an issue. Technical
Lost the
issue with
Facebook
StreamYard
stream.
right now. So
Everybody's
yeah,
gonna miss me and John
Facebook?
talking about it. We're in the good stuff right now too.
Yeah.
Just keep vamping.
2A and 3A is the best groups.
Yeah. I wonder if it went out on my side. I don't think, because I mean, obviously I can talk to you guys, so it's not like we're really. Oh, wait, what's this mean?
we're still live on Twitter and YouTube right now, so just having some issues with Facebook.
Yeah, can you send a comment out, Jerel. Say hey, or I'll say join us on YouTube as well. I can share that. Maybe we get some folks on Twitter and YouTube, and maybe that'll pump those numbers up. We'll see.
It'll have to be now.
It'll have to be. That's not our fault. We're not doing anything wrong here. But yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm not really sure what is happening with that. I appreciate you guys hanging in there with us. Not sure why we lost our stuff there, but it looks like everything else is going except for Facebook. So it's got to be something on Facebook's end, not our problem, I will say. Appreciate you guys on YouTube as always. Y'all are awesome. Yeah, everybody come over to YouTube. Let me make a post on a post to share that right quick. I don't know how to share it. Let me see. How do you share on YouTube? Who knows how to share the link from YouTube in the Facebook chat? Somebody do that. Somebody help us out. Perfect. Did you comment that on Facebook too, Jerel?
I threw it on everything, so
perfect. I don't know what I just put youtube.com/Movin Chains. That sound good?
That works.
Perfect. Okay. Well, should we wait a second? Should we keep going? What do we do here? Yeah, it looks like Facebook just cut out on us. Sorry there, boys.
Yeah, sorry about that. I will run a couple commercials. And
yeah, do that while we circle back up here.
Set your kids up with a lifetime of financial success with Smart Start from Founders Federal Credit Union. Just like learning the rules of football, understanding money management is crucial. Our Smart Start products and educational resources help teach kids the basics of saving, budgeting, and smart spending. Give your young MVPs the skills they need to move the chains on their financial futures. Learn more at foundersfcu.com/smartstart. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
At HTC, we're here to keep you connected. Here to provide reliable fiber optic internet with free, fast, and secure HTC Smart Wi-Fi. HTC, here to connect.
Preferred Home Services. How can we make you smile today? Preferred Home Services. For electrical or plumbing, cooling too. Go, 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 Preferred.
Okay, well, let's just roll here. Whoever's on YouTube, we appreciate you. Whoever's on Twitter, we appreciate you. What we will do here, we will basically save it and then share it back full version on Facebook afterwards. But love to have you tune in on YouTube and Twitter right now. But I guess, John, I think that wraps up 2A. I don't know where you guys lost us. I don't know. But let's move on to 3A now, talk through 3A, and give that bracket a look.
Yeah, so Upper State 3A, Mountain View hosting Carolina. St. Joseph's will be hosting Walhalla. Crescent at home against Union. West Oak is at home against Christ Church. Powersville hosting Broome. Pendleton at home. Actually, no, wait a minute.
They're on the road, yep.
At home against Pendleton. Chapman at home against Palmetto. And Belton Honeypath hosting Southside Christian. I think it said St. Joseph's hosting Walhalla. They're actually going to Walhalla.
Yep, on the road at Walhalla. That's correct. Well, just, let's stop right here on the Upper State for a second. I think that's probably the best game in Upper State right there is Walhalla St. Joe's. That'll be a very good matchup there. Powdersville Broome matched up early on in the season. Powdersville beat them. That may have been their first win of the season, actually, to get them rolling. And another sneaky one here, Chapman Palmetto. Chapman, a team that has been, really down this year, still gets a home playoff game. Palmetto better under year 2 under Ryan Norton. I don't know if the Mustangs have enough to win this game, but if they do win a playoff game, it will be awesome for that program.
I think they have a great chance. I think this is the best chance for an upset in the Upper State bracket for 2A or 3A. Sorry.
Perfect. Let's look at the Lower State 3A.
So Loris with the wacky and wild region and things that have gone on in Lower State 3A. Loris will actually have a bye. They will get the winner of Silver Bluff and Hanahan. That game will be at Hanahan. Orangeburg Wilkinson will be hosting Aner. Keenan hosting North Charleston. Newberry is at home against Georgetown. Dillon hosting Battery Creek. Waccamaw hosting Swansea. That's going to be a pretty fun game right there.
Mm-hmm.
And Oceanside hosting Fox Creek.
In the Lower State, I think the Hanahan Silver Bluff game is a good game there. Silver Bluff started off, I think, 7, won a couple games, had a chance to win the region title last Friday, losing to Newberry there. Going into a Hanahan team that seems to have turned the corner a little bit, made the switch at quarterback to the younger kid there. He's playing well for Coach Turner. Coach Fields and Coach Willis do a fantastic job down there. It should be a fun game there. OW and Aner. I think if you want to see some hard-hitting, big physical football, that's your game. Aner with that, whatever you want to call it, single wing, run-heavy offense, going to run it right at you. OW has some big boys as well for Coach Carter. If you missed that interview last week, it's on our pages. It was great to talk to him. He's done a great job with that Bruins program. It'll be a fun game to see. And then Waccamaw Swansea, like you said, John, that's another sneaky good football team. Waccamaw, I think, is better than people think. They would have been a 4 seed if Marlboro County had not gotten, had to forfeit all their games. Swansea, a team that started off really hot, maybe 6-1, 7-1, something like that, kind of faltered down the stretch there. I think Waccamaw can go on I guess they're at home. Sorry. I think Waccamaw can win this game over Swansea.
I think Swansea wins. I think they can. I think this will be a solid game. Waccamaw has been certainly tested playing in the region they've played in. I think Swansea's a pretty good team. I think they're a little bit of a sleeper. I don't know if they get past round 2.
Yeah,
but they are a good team, and I think they win this week, and I think they can give a big time competition in round 2 as well.
Yeah, Jerel, any comments from you or the chat on this round 1 through A slate here? I'm interested to see if we have any comments, because I don't know what's going on with the stream, but hopefully we had some folks in here. We got a comment from Chris. When was the last time OW made the playoffs? I'm not sure, because the way it goes now, Chris, almost everybody makes it, as you know. So they may have snuck in the last couple of years. I can't really remember for sure. Actually, I've got last year's slate. They were 3A last year still, correct? Let's see if they made last year's playoffs.
I know they had been a bigger school. I don't know if they were 5A at one point in time or not. I know they were 4A for a while.
Let's see. They made last year's playoffs. Got beat by Crestwood 42-0 in the first round in the 3A ranks last season. Star says, Heather, appreciate you coming over to Twitter. We appreciate that. Derek says, what's good, fellas? Let's go Powdersville. The Patriots are poised for a nice little run, I feel like, John. A team that has completely turned it around from a slow start, playing good football right now. LJ says, Union, baby. Love that. Sting on site. Love that for Coach Iceman's bunch there. Any other comments, Jerel, from you or from the chat on these round 1 matchups?
Just for me, man, I am really, really excited about 3A playoffs. I think it's going to be very, very competitive. We talked about it. You used a great analogy talking about you don't know how top heavy or anything like that. You think it's just very broad, and I agree with that. I think there's a lot of teams that have a shot to make a deep run. I think that number's smaller, who I legitimately think is going to be able to win the state title, but it should be very competitive and a lot of fun to keep track with.
Another sneaky game I want to mention here, because this team was so hot early in the year, ranked very, very high, kind of fell off a little bit, had some injuries and whatnot, and that's Pendleton traveling to Woodruff. Pendleton, I think, got up to as high as like number 3 in maybe the media poll earlier on in the year. We didn't have them that high, but some other folks did. With that offense, they can light it up a little bit. I know they've been a little bit banged up. Like I said, Woodruff just seems to be a machine right now. But that could be a game where if you're Woodruff, you can't sleep on those boys. So just put it that way.
Yeah, and Pendleton's they've got the opportunity to light up the scoreboard a little bit too. That could be a bit of a shootout.
Yep. All right, well, guys. Well, who do you like? Who are some favorites? Maybe some sleepers here in 3A. I'll go first. Obviously, we know the favorites. MVP and BHP and Woodruff, and then you look at the lower state. You got a Loris and Oceanside Collegiate type squad there. A team that I think can make a little run. And when I say sleeper, maybe a little bit different here, guys. I think sleeper can win like 2 games in the playoffs. I don't have to win the whole thing, but just make a little run. I think Christ Church. I think they're in a good spot there. They get a really good matchup in round 1 with West Oak. Second round, you get either a Crescent or a Union team. I think they've got a good chance there in that game as well. I think they can make a little run. And then in the lower state, I mean, you don't really consider Dillon a sleeper, I wouldn't think, but they've got a chance to make a decent run, I think, as well. But another team I'm looking at is Keenan. And you're highlighting them too, John, a team that has won some good games this year. They got a North Charleston team in round 1. I think they dispatched them pretty easily. You get an O-Dub or an Ainer bunch in round 2, a game that I think Keenan could certainly compete in, maybe even win. I think they're a team to look at in Lower State as potential to win a couple ball games.
Yeah, I really like that Keenan team as well. They're my Lower State sleeper to make a little bit of a run. They play some good defense, and they played some good competition. Keenan, we don't talk about them a ton, but they're a good team. I think they can certainly make a run at Lower State. And the Upper State, I'm looking at Powdersville.
Yep.
You know, we hold Powdersville so high because of the success that they have had. And then starting off this year, it really sputtered, but they have really turned out a very good season. And this is a team, you know, a potential matchup with Woodruff or Pendleton in round 2. That's a tough matchup. That's going to be a tough game. We know Coach Muster is going to have that group ready. He's familiar with the playoffs. We've seen him make some really gutsy calls at some gutsy times.
Yeah.
You know, he believes in his team and they believe in him. That's a dangerous team to come across in the playoffs.
And that's one of those things too, where if you can, we said it earlier in 2A and in 1A too, but if you can win a big game early, that can really just spark you guys. You know, if you take down one of the favorites in Woodruff in round 2, that can propel you to make a really nice run. So the Powdersville Patriots, you know, hats off to what they've done. They've won 6 in a row now, maybe 7 in a row, playing great football. I think you're right, John. They have a chance to make some noise. Jerel, anybody you want to shout out on your side or any comments from the chat on the 3A slate?
A couple teams I think could win their first round matchups potentially that I'm looking at. They got some tough second round matchups. That's Walhalla and Palmetto. You know, obviously I think Walhalla, they're going to have to play MVP if they advance. And then I think Palmetto's matched up against BHP in that second round, but interested to see what they're able to do in that first round. There's some teams that are really building. I really like what bowl coaches are doing there and excited to see about their future.
Yep. Okay, guys. Anything else from the chat right quick, Jerel?
Yeah, I got a couple comments here from the chat.
Perfect. Apparently says, let's go Newberry Bulldogs. They're a team that I might should have considered them a sleeper because they're a good team as well. Keon says Batesburg, Leesville, Barnwell state championship game. Certainly could, man. 2 of the favorites in that class, you would think, Keon. Well, let's look now at the favorite game of everybody. How many teams can win state in 3A? Who wants to go first this time?
I'll go first. I'll go first. I expanded. I keep getting bigger and bigger. I'm going to go 6. I think 6 teams could win it here.
Okay.
You know, I think it's going to be extremely competitive. That's the reason why you may see some upsets or maybe some favorite teams, kind of like we saw last year, not advance to Orangeburg. So that's why I'm going 6 here.
I have 6 as my number as well. I do think my 6 is a little bit generous. There's a couple teams in 3A that I'm very, very high on that I think can beat just pretty much anybody in the state. 3A.
Yes.
But I threw in a few more in there because I think it is very competitive classification. And we've seen it with the playoffs every year. Somebody gets beat sooner than we think.
Yep. I've got – how many do I want to say? I've got 7. I've got 7. I had 5 and 2 question mark. I'm going to go 7. And I tell you what, looking ahead a little bit here to next week, a game that I really hope we get, and I think whoever wins this one has a chance to make some real noise. And that's potentially Dillon going to Newberry in round 2. I think that could be a great ball game. I think both those teams have the potential to make deep runs, I think. So I can't wait to see those two match up if we get that in round 2. I will say those are teams that I'm certainly looking at it to make a deep run. I think they're both really good. And got to shout out my Loris Lions. I haven't talked much about Loris tonight. Getting the bye, John. Awesome what Coach Manson's done, winning that region title. And it just worked out great where they get the bye. I don't know if you love it because now you get 2 byes in a row. They didn't play last week either, so that worries me a little bit there for them. But they are a legit team. And if you just look at the bracket from the lower states, perspective, you want to be on that top half because you can avoid Dillon, you can avoid Newberry, you can avoid Oceanside until the lower state championship. That top half is where you want to be. I think Loris is in a really good spot to make a deep run there, and then upper state is going to be a lot of fun, man. A lot of heavy hitters up there.
Yeah, I mean I think lower state's going to be really fun too. Just 3A, the 3A bracket's going to be awesome. J-Dog
says just 3 teams, OC, MVP, BHP, battle of the alphabets. I love it. But you're leaving out Woodruff, though, a team that took MVP to the brink. So that's another thing you got to look at for sure. But, yeah, I think Oceanside is a team that I've tried to keep them in the conversation because they've been kind of overlooked a little bit, it feels like, this season. In the lower state, they are really good again. Even without Coach Wilkes, they are a dominant bunch. Chris says Dillon beats OC for the lower state to face BHP and Orangeburg. Would be great matchups. Both of those games would be for sure.
That I would not be extremely surprised at that either.
Yeah. Let's move on to 4A drill. We'll do commercials after 4A since you kind of hit them earlier there, if you're cool with that. Let's look at the 4A ranks here, John, and go through that bracket, and then we'll move on to the commercial time and then 5A and SCISA.
Yeah, we'll start with low A.
Low A, 4A.
Lower state, 4A. Hartsville will be hosting Beaufort. Darlington, how about this? Darlington hosting a playoff game. Darlington at home against Midland Valley.
Love that for Coach Johnson. Appreciate him again for the Falcons hat back here.
One of our CONA games of the week, Hilton Head hosting Crestwood. South Florence will be at home against Brooklyn Casey. Gilbert hosting Lower Richland. Bishop England at home against South Aiken. Bluffton will be hosting May River. North Augusta hosting Airport. That's in lower state. And then in the upper state, Daniel will be hosting Dreer. Seneca at home against Richland Northeast. Also one of our CONA games of the week there. South Point hosting Blue Ridge. Greer will be at home against Fountain Inn. Wren at home against Lancaster. Camden hosting Pickens. AC Flora at home against Emerald. And West Side will be hosting the Lakewood Gators.
Starting in lower state, a couple games that I'm looking at. I think Bluffton May River is a big one. They actually played 2 weeks ago. Bluffton defeated May River there, so they'll get a little bit of rematch game with May River on the road at Bluffton. That should be a fun one there. I think Bishop England South Aiken is a sneaky good football team too. I think those are good games. Bishop England's been really impressive this year. The defense has really looked good. Quarterback Quinn Mahoney as well. South Aiken with Juju Edwards, man, he is a good enough player to put you on his back and win a couple games.
Yes.
That'll be a fun game down there, I feel like. In the lower state, Darlington, Midland Valley as well is sneaky good for me. The Mustangs playing better as of late. Darlington, a good football team, getting a lot better under Coach Johnson. I think all three of those games are ones that I'm looking at in that lower bracket.
Yeah, and it's those are good games and those are great. I see the rest of the bracket though, and boy, there's some really the powerhouses in lower state 4A are going to be really tough. Really tough to beat. In
upper state, I'm looking at AC4 Emerald. Emerald team that we had kind of written off a few weeks back was really struggling, has played better down the stretch. AC4 has a great record. Similar to some other teams talked about earlier, like who have they beaten? We don't really know. How good are they? Hard to tell. I think Greer and Fountain Inn could be a really good matchup there. Fountain Inn, still a younger program coming along, back in the playoffs. I think it's their first time in the playoffs in history. I think they missed it by like a game last year. First time in the playoffs, going over to the Water Tower against Greer. Greer has been pretty solid this season, I feel like. I think Fountain Inn's got a real chance to win that game.
Yeah, I think so too. Fountain Inn's played some good football in what I consider is their first full year, first year with 12th graders.
Yep.
Been a great program. Greer's been a good story too because, they lost their best player in Ladanian Martin, but they are playing some good football. They've had some good upsets. Beat Burns earlier this year. So I feel like Greer, what's dangerous for everybody else, I feel like Greer's kind of playing with some house money right now.
Yeah.
Any games that they win from here on out, I think is gravy on top. So Greer, they're going to be a fun team to watch as well. But again, I love 4A, but boy, I think the good teams in 4A are a lot better than our decent teams.
Yeah. Any sleepers and favorites from you guys? Any comments from you, Jerel? On round one or the chat on round one as well.
Sorry. I was going to say, go ahead, John. I was doing some stuff on the back end. So go ahead, John.
I would say my two sleepers are AC Floor. I think we say, hey, we don't know how good they are, but they put up some points. They've blown out some people. West Side probably going to face them in round two if they can get past Emerald in round one. Boy, you'd hate to find out that they're really good in round two if you're West Side. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I think AC4 might be better than what at least I've given them credit for this year. I think they're a tough out. And then also, I just go back to how good Richland Northeast was in the first half of the season. If they can get that chemistry back, and we talked about it before during the breakdown of that game, I think if Richland Northeast can look good Friday night, we'll go on the road and win Seneca. I think they're going to be a really, really dangerous team that you're going to have to account for in 4A.
Yeah, and there's a game I forgot to mention earlier that I think is interesting here, and then I think there's a really big sleeper in this matchup as well, and that's Lancaster going to Wren. Lancaster was a darn in the playoffs last year, won 1 game in the regular season, won, I think, 2 in the playoffs, and took South Florence, played them pretty tough as well when they finally did lose. They made a nice run there. They knocked off Ridgeview and Lucy Beckham before falling to South Florence. 2 pretty good wins there for the Bruins last year. And then Wren, we just saw them. They lost to a TL Hanna team by a score. They're going in to tie the game. They fumble at the goal line. They played Westside pretty tough, and that was without some key defensive pieces in that game as well. Their leading tackler was out. I think one of their big D linemen was out as well. I think Wren, what they can do with Bagwell and Price there on offense, I think they're a team to look out for in 4A. They could make some noise. I think Lancaster is a fun game in round 1, and I think Wren is a potential sleeper in 4A as well.
And Wren would have home field advantage until you get to the semifinals. Oh, potentially until you get to the semifinals. Depending on how things work out, could get home field advantage there too. Yep. But if they keep winning, they'll definitely have it till then. So that's a big deal too. Yeah.
And interesting to see, like I mentioned in our games of the week, is how good was that Charleston Low Country region down there? Because they all beat each other up. So, is Bishop England going to get hot and make a deep run in the playoffs, beat South Aiken, and, Gilbert and keep going? Or is what's going to happen to them? Bluffton, wherever they play each other, of course. So we'll see how that shakes out. But it'll be fun to follow that region there. Jerel, comments from you before we look at our number of teams that can win it all, or from the chat as well.
Let me pull up the chat again. I was looking at some stuff on the back end, but I'm excited about 4A playoffs. Not to think that I don't want you guys to think that I'm not, but I think Wren.
I don't think you are.
I really am excited about 4A playoffs. Wren is a team that you guys have mentioned that's going to be a lot of fun to keep up with. But I really want to. I know we talked about on preseason is just keep my eye out. I think that's Region 6, that Low Country region. With your May Rivers, your Bluffdons. Obviously they're going to be playing against each other. Bishop England, see how they fare in the playoffs so we can determine if they were all really good or if they were just kind of beating up on one another. So it's gonna be fun to watch those guys
for sure. Well, any comments from the chat before we pick our teams here? Chris says Wren's playing for their teammate. Nothing. Exactly right. That's something you. Isaac Wigginton still in the hospital. Everybody still keep praying for him there. That is certainly a galvanizing situation there to get the Wren program going. Chris doesn't see that match again for Lancaster. You're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. You make that run last year. Everybody's going to expect you to do it this year. So no surprises from the Bruins, it feels like, for sure. Hard to beat a team twice. I think Bluffton wins big. Okay. They're playing good football. Had a tough loss to Hilton Head last week. Got hammered. We'll see how that goes. Jay says waiting on Daniel Westside in the upper. Don't forget about South Point now, Jay. That'll be good. South Point is poised for a deep run as well, and they would actually get a shot at Daniel before Westside does. So see how that shakes out. But guys, 4A, how many teams can win state for you guys?
So I wrote down 4. I think this is the only one where I feel like I might be a little bit more conservative, and maybe there could be 1 or 2 more. But I really think it's 4. I think there's 4 teams that, all 4 of them could get beat before they get to Orangeburg. Boy, that'd be big. Obviously 4 teams aren't going to make it to Orangeburg. But
John's got a round robin now for the state title going on.
In a new location too. We're going to Spartanburg for it.
But I think it's 4. I thought about a 5th or 6th team, but then I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? I don't think they're going to be able to get through everybody. They might be able to get through one of them. I don't think they're going to get through everybody. So my number's 4.
Jerel, who do you got here in 4A? How many do you have?
Yeah, I'm the same. I got 4 teams. There's 4 that I've really had my eye on the last few weeks, and they've played really, good football. So going 4 here. Hate to hear Kevin, say 13 or 20, whatever he's going to say here, but I'm going 4.
I thought you were going to go less than that.
No, I'm going 4 here.
I got 8.
8. Wow.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing for me. When you look at it, it feels like the upper state. Like when I did my original list, I think I had like 3 upper and like 1 lower, and I was like, "Oh, it looks like there's a path for somebody in the lower state to make a run because there's just not as dominant teams down there." So I added a couple from the lower state. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we got a chance here. But I do want to – this is one that I will say I had a question mark about. I ended up going with the yes on them. And I want to give you guys thoughts on this because it's just – it would be the surprise and sleeper of all sleepers if this happens. But they got a dang good player at quarterback, and that's RNE. When you got a kid that good, a legit D1 dual threat, if things shake the right way, I was like, I gotta put him on the list. I didn't feel great about it, but I was like, you know what? We'll see.
When they're at their best, they're very good.
Yeah, love RNE, love Coach Wilson. I love the receiving core around, the stud quarterback there, but I just don't think that they have it. Just the way that they've played down the stretch, even with him coming back from injury, that's the issue that I have. And we talked about it earlier in the show. I'm just not sure they're ready to take that step.
And one thing that may have gotten me talked into them a little bit was looking back at last year and how we all had kind of written off Westside. We're like, hey, they can score tons of points. Can they stop anybody? When it mattered, they did stop people, and they still scored tons of points. I was like, you know what? RNE probably have not played as good as Westside did at this point last year, to make that comparison. But I was like, that's a similar to me where it's like a team that could really light it up when they get going because they've got the stud at quarterback. I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw them in there. I think they've got a chance. If things break the right way, they get hot, they could make a deep run.
I think they're every bit as good and dangerous as a Greenville team from last year.
Who was right there on the doorstep, yeah.
That we saw go much further than we expected to do as well.
Yeah, but I think, in Upper State, everybody talks West Side, Daniel, South Point. Man, those are the three heavy hitters, have been in our poll for a while now. Cannot wait to see those three play. I do have to mention this. I'd be remiss if I didn't. And I would have had 9 teams if a certain appeal today had shaken out a different way. But Gray Collegiate is not in the 4A playoffs. They got, sanctioned last week that they played with an ineligible player, had to forfeit some games. They appealed to the executive committee. It got upheld. They appealed to the appellate panel today. It still got upheld. So the War Eagles are out of the playoffs. They would have been a very high seed. They would have been second in their region. They would have been a team that I think could have made a deep run. They will not be able to this year. So they obviously are not in the playoffs, not on my list. But I would have actually had 9 if that had shaken out a different way, I think. But any comments on 4A Jerel from the chat? J-Dog says 4. Upper State will have the winner. Certainly leans that way. Like I said, you got the 3 big dogs up there. You got, I think, Lower State is probably Hartsville, South Florence, North Augusta are probably the 3 biggest ones down there. Chris says 12 teams. So Chris has got more than me. So y'all can't pick on me anymore. I love that, Chris.
I put that up there just for you.
Wow. That's awesome.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, Jerel, let's give a quick shout out to some friends of the program because not sure how the video is even working right now. So let's just do that, and we'll look at the 5A ranks and go through that.
Preferred Home Services. How can we make you smile today? Preferred Home Services. For electrical or plumbing, cooling too. Go, 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 Preferred.
Yeah.
With 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville, Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, CONA, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. Go to kona.care to learn more.
Let's look now at 5A Division 2 first, John. Go through those first round matchups.
Yeah, so not really a lower state, upper state. I guess we can kind of consider upper and lower.
Yeah, I would say so.
They say upper state, lower state. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that. I'm making things up. So we'll go lower state first. Irma will get the bye. They'll face the winner of Chapin Goose Creek in the second round. That game will be at Chapin. North Myrtle Beach will be hosting Lucy Beckham. West Florence will get a bye. They will host the winner of that game next week. Berkeley getting a bye. They'll host the winner, they will host the winner of Socastee and Westwood. That game will be in Blythewood at Westwood High School. And then White Knoll will be playing host to Lugoff Elgin. Winner of that game will have to travel to Myrtle Beach next week. On the upper state side of the slate, Gaffney, they get a bye. They will take on the winner of Riverside Greenville. That game over in Riverside. We'll see Catawba Ridge hosting Woodmont. Winner of that game will travel to Anderson and take on TL Hanna next week. Greenwood getting a bye. They will play host to the winner of Hillcrest Nation Ford, that game over in Simpsonville. And then Indian Land will host Eastside. Winner of that game will travel to Rock Hill to take on Northwestern.
5A Division II, Indian Land, I was really high on them preseason and not really lit up to the hype. I think they could be a dangerous team. I don't think they're going to have to beat Northwestern in round 2 probably. Hillcrest Nation Ford is interesting to me. You know, I don't know if you guys saw, Caleb Sutton, the quarterback at Hillcrest, has been kind of playing some other positions now. They had him at a little bit of receiver, I think maybe some DB last week as well, kind of doing some cross-training there, letting Jackson Free sling a little bit around. That could be a game changer for the Rams. We'll see. They lost to Greenwood a couple weeks back, but if they get them in round 2, they've got a good chance to avenge that possibly. Catawba Ridge is a team to look out for, I think, there. Maybe my favorite game, though, could be that Chapin Goose Creek matchup.
Yes.
Goose Creek, a really good defense. Chapin, a really good offense. Could be a fun game over there in Columbia, Columbia area on Friday night.
Yeah. Goose Creek's not one of my, they are my, if I had to pick a sleeper, they would be my sleeper I would pick. I think they've got a very good chance to win this game against Chapin. They've been playing really good football lately. A second round game over at W.C. Hawkins Stadium against Irmo would be a really, really tough win to get, but they have been playing really good football. And hey, if you can find a way to slow down AJ Bringen, maybe you have a chance. But I like Goose Creek as a sleeper. They've been playing pretty good football.
Yeah, if you want to see a low-scoring game, I would say North Myrtle Beach, Lucy Beckham, two pretty good defenses there, a lot of running the football there. White Knoll Lugoff Elgin intrigues me too. Because White Knoll has been, the only game they lost by a lot, and it wasn't even really a lot, I guess. They lost to Sumter early on, that big comeback. But outside of that, they lost a lot of close games. They've got the experience of making a deep run last year all the way to the state title game. Quarterback Landon Sharp was out last week, should be back. I think I'll tease my sleeper here. I think if White Knoll can beat Lugoff Elgin, they've got a chance to make a very nice run. I think that bottom portion of Lower State, I think somebody can get hot, a team you don't expect, and win some ball games down there.
It's very gettable. Very gettable. They should beat Lugoff Elgin. They've got it as a 7-10 game. They're much better than Lugoff Elgin. They should win this game. I'm not going to say handedly, but unless they really just turn the ball over a ton, commit a bunch of mistakes, they should win this game. The only caveat I will say, though, having to travel to Myrtle Beach is tough. That's a long trip. That's a tough game. And then I think they're good enough to do it. They would potentially have to go to Myrtle Beach and Berkeley back-to-back weeks, which are 2 long road trips. Yeah. Berkeley's a good team in their own right as well. But, I like that as a sleeper. And really, you look at that lower half of that Lower State bracket, that's really up for grabs.
Yep. Because Berkeley's a team that I was really high on earlier on in the year, played some good football, but they kind of struggled down the stretch. Had a lot of turnovers, a lot of penalties. You got to clean that stuff up here as you go into the playoffs. They got as much talent, especially on offense, as anybody with Bash and Boone and Rivers. Just got to get those, disciplinary things and I guess mental things really, cleaned up here as you roll into the playoffs. I think for me, Jerel, and I don't know about you if you want to pop in here, the favorites, I think for all of us all year long has probably been Northwestern, Gaffney, Irmo, probably the big 3, I would say, in 5A Division II. We've had some good runs out of Hanna and Greenwood as well. But I think those are probably the 3 that I think have to be right at the top of everybody's list.
Yeah, they got
it. Yep, big 3. That's it. And then Zach had a question about Berkeley getting that bye. They didn't actually win that region. This is the funky thing about these being split regions and things like that. They finished second. Cane Bay won that region, but they're in the upper portion of they're in Division 1, so that's how Berkeley kind of slides in and gets the bye at 5-5.
Yeah. Who are some other sleepers you guys like? So I mentioned White Knoll. I like what they've got potential wise there. Outside of that, I don't see anybody with like a great
too small. They're too small to kind of have sleepers here.
Yeah, the one team I looked at, maybe Catawba Ridge. Like they've got a pretty good defense, and I think with the Woodmont is a little bit down this year from last year. I think the Copperheads can probably win that game. And then TL Hanna, it's a tough type of team to play. It really is. But if you catch them on a night where maybe it's just not clicking, they get a couple fumbles, whatever it is, they can be got, I would say. So I think Catawba Ridge also maybe can make a little bit of a run in that upper half.
Yeah, that would be the next team if I had to pick a sleeper. I think Tonbridge is a pretty good pick as well.
Yep. Jerel, any comments from the chat on this here?
Let's see. Maybe I got some different stats, but I had Cane Bay winning that region. So
yeah, I believe they won 3 in a row, Chris. They were 0-7, won 3 in a row to win that region is what I heard, unless I may be mistaken, but I thought that was what I saw online this week. Well, okay. Let's look now. How many teams can win state in 5A Division II, boys? Who wants to go first this time?
I think it's only 3, and I think I feel pretty confident on that one.
I got 4. I think there's a wild card in there, but obviously the big 3. We don't need to go into more detail. We know who those teams are, but I got 4. I got a wild card in there.
Oh, you guys are killing me. You guys are killing me.
Oh God, he's got the whole bracket in there, John.
Oh no.
I got 3 and 3 question marks. So take it for what it's worth, my guys. Take it for what it's worth.
So 6 is what he didn't want to say. He's got 6.
6, sure. A team that I do want to ask you guys about, because I struggle with them, and I didn't even put a question mark by them. I ended up like, you know what? No. Greenwood. What do y'all think about Greenwood? How good are they? Can they make a deep run? I've had a hard time getting a read on them this season, it feels like.
I think Greenwood's a very good team.
Yes.
But if they get to, they win one game and they'll probably match up against Northwestern,
who hammered them last year in the playoffs.
And I just don't think they're in the same realm as Northwestern. I just don't think they are. They're good. They're good, and I think they can beat. I think if you want to say, hey, Irmo, Northwestern, and Gaffney. If you want to say, hey, there's the top 3, I think Greenwood's got a very good claim at being, hey, we're number 4.
Yeah,
as a handful of teams do. I just don't think they're at the level of those top 3.
Yeah, and when you look at that lower half, who do you guys look at behind Irma? Like for me, I think they were the clear-cut one in the lower state, and that's where I got a little tricked up. I was like, maybe White Knoll, they can get hot, make a run. Is it Berkeley? I don't know who the second favorite out of the lower state would be.
I think Berkeley, yeah. I think potentially their toughest, because there's a lot of got to happen before they would match up potentially against Berkeley. I think their toughest game until they could get to Orangeburg might be that round 2 game.
Yeah. Chapin Goose Creek winner for sure. What do you think, Jerel, lower state? Anybody behind Irmo that you think could potentially make some noise? Or who do you think, I guess?
Behind Irmo, yeah, I think it's probably just Berkeley. Like you said, White Knoll, that's very intriguing too. They played for a state title last year, so I think those are probably the 2 teams that I would circle there.
Yep. Well, let's look now at 5A Division 1. John, roll through that bracket and give our thoughts on it.
Yeah, so similar setup here. We'll go with the upper state first. Dutch Fork, no surprise, they will get a bye. They'll play the winner of one of our CONA games of the week, Dorman Bowling Springs, that game over at Dorman University. River Bluff hosting Malden. Winner of that game will go to Rock Hill. Rock Hill getting the bye.
I want to say this. It's funny. I mentioned I watched last year's Roundwood show earlier today, and we were shouting out how cool it was for Rock Hill to get a home playoff game. And now they're getting a bye here the next year. Man, hats off to Coach Birch and what he's done there. A team that kind of got hot middle of the season, won some nice games there. Congrats there to the Bearcats.
JL Man also getting a bye. They'll take the winner of Clover Blythewood, that game over in Clover. Burns will be, they're the 7th, they're the better seed, but they'll obviously travel to Lexington to play that game.
No, so I've actually heard they may play at Presbyterian College. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but I think they're still trying to work out the details of where exactly that will be played this week.
Mountain View might be trying to play at Presbyterian.
I think they're at Newberry this week, I believe.
All right. So Burns and Lexington, TBD.
Yeah, exactly.
But the winner will travel to Spartanburg next week. On the lower state side of the bracket, we'll see Sumter getting a bye. They'll take on the winner of Ashley Ridge, West Ashley. That game over at Ashley Ridge High School. Carolina Forest getting a bye. They'll take on the winner of James Island and Wando. That game will be in James Island. Cane Bay, they get a bye as well. They'll take on the winner of Ridgeview Spring Valley. Earlier in the show, I said there's some games that should not be playoff games. Ridgeview, Spring Valley should not be a playoff game. Spring Valley, I'm sorry, nothing against you. You're 0-10.
I sound like you got something against them, John. Sounds like to me.
They've got as many wins this year as me, you, and Jerel have. If you go 0-10, you shouldn't be in the playoffs. But
I can get behind that.
That's a game that we have. We'll see Stratford hosting Fort Dorchester. Winner of that game will travel to Somerville.
For me, round one, Lower State, the only game I really like is that James Island Wando game. I think that could be okay. Wando, Coach Perrin, his first year, they've been a solid squad there. I think they're okay. And Ashley Ridge, West Ashley, too. I guess I should mention that because I think it's two really opposite squads. West Ashley, hard, physical, defensive-based team there. Ashley Ridge wants to light it up with Khalid and DeWeese out wide. They can really sling it around. Upper State, I think, is some good ones there. Dorman, Bowling Springs mentioned that. And Burns, Lexington, I think, should be a good game as well. Two hard-hitting teams there. And then even, I think, Clover, Blythewood, a team that two teams we haven't really talked a whole lot about this year. Struggled a little bit throughout the season, but I think those all could be good matchups here in round one.
Yeah, they could. What's tough for me is I think a majority of these teams with the byes are, again, much better than who we're seeing playing in round one. I think 5A will be good. It will be good to watch, but it's going to be a couple more weeks down the road before we really see some good games.
Yeah, comments from you, Jerel, on these round one matchups or from the chat as well.
I just have to echo those sentiments from John. I think it's just going to take a week or two for us to see some really good matchups in this one. The one you mentioned is intriguing, Wando, James Island, but yeah, it's kind of tough for round one here in the upper division of 5A.
Perfect. Who are some sleepers you guys look at? I'll shout out one of them I'm looking at is Ashley Ridge. I think the way that they can play offense, but I'll say this, and I meant to look at this up earlier and I forgot to, so let me do it right now before I say something really stupid, because I believe I had this exact same thought last year. I thought Ashley Ridge with Derek Sally, they played Sumter, I think, in round one, and we're like, man, they're going to give it to them. They're going to handle them. Sumter beat them 56-13. So we completely blew that one. At least I know that I did, because I think we'd all talked about Ashley Ridge because they're so hot on offense. They're playing great football. Got hammered. So I'm a little worried to say it, but I feel like Ashley Ridge, with what they can do on offense, they might get hot and play something around two. We'll see what happens. But they're a potential sleeper for me. The Swamp Foxes over Coach Tate.
I love it.
Go ahead.
For me, I think the only legitimate – I think there's two legitimate sleepers that are playing here in round one. I think they're Ridgeview. I think Ridgeview is a really dynamic team. If they can win when they beat Spring,
they should play the game.
When they beat Spring Valley Friday, they'll have a great chance to beat Cane Bay, I think, in round two. And they're just they're offensively they're dangerous enough to be able to stay in a game with anybody. And then you flip it on the other side, and James Island, they're good enough defensively to keep themselves, I think, in games with just about anybody. And, they've got a path where I think they got a very good chance if they can get by in round one. I think they got a very good chance against Carolina Forest. Sumter's going to be tough. I think Sumter, it's wild I don't think they're a sleeper, but we always talk about how good Sumter is. We just don't think they're quite at the state championship level. I think this year they're as close to that level as they've been in a while, and they probably have had, I would argue, more talented teams the last few years, or at least on the defensive side of the ball. They've got some really good talent on the offensive side of the football this year. I think Sumter, I'm not calling them a sleeper, but I think they've got a good of a chance to get to Orangeburg this year in that weekend of champions than they've had here in a long time. Yeah,
I like that Ridgeview pick because Cane Bay, we mentioned it, 0-7 to now 3-7. It's still hard to be sold on that. Just what they did. I think Ridgeview could get hot there. But I got two teams in upstate I think could win a couple games, and one of those Burns. Because I think they can beat Lexington. I think they're good enough to do that. And then Spartanburg, I know hammered them a couple weeks ago, but that's a region game, a rivalry game. They play again. It certainly could shake out completely differently there from the Rebels and the Vikings. And then also, I think River Bluff could win a couple games too. They've got some talent offensively. They've gotten a lot better with Murray coming back at quarterback. He was out for a while with Collier out wide. I mean, they got some studs there. Defensively, they're solid as well. I think they can beat Malden, and they'll have a good chance to beat a Solid Rock Hill team as well, and to get a matchup with Dutch Fork again, which they probably don't want there. But I think they've got a good chance to win a couple games as well, maybe in the upper state bracket.
Yeah, we're talking about a Malden team that's 2-8.
Hey, they won 2 games in a row, John. They got hot. They had lost a lot in a row. Don't write off the Mavs.
That's all it takes to get in the playoffs.
Don't write off the Mavs.
River Bluff.
Jerel, any sleepers from you?
Yeah, just Ridgeview. There's a good one in the lower, and then uppers River Bluff. I like those teams. I think they play really good football, so I think they can make a run. So it should be a lot of fun. Cane Bay kind of scares you. They did get hot though, man. That is fantastic. They tied Berkeley, beat Berkeley. So not sure what happened there as far as the region standings. I got them at 3-2, so both of them. So I think Cane Bay won that one
as well.
Perfect. I thought it was 3-1. Anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, how many teams in Division 1 5A do you guys think can win state?
So I got very generous here.
Ooh.
I said 4.
Hey,
Okay.
Johnny boy.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go next. I got 3. Last week I was at 4. This week I'm at 3. So I eliminated one with last week's competition.
Reading the tea leaves there, I think I know who it was.
Exactly.
I got 5. I thought hard about going 1. I really did. Thought really hard about going 1. Instead, I went 5. So here we are. It's a good split, 2. I got 3 upper, 2 lower. I think 5A Division 1, I think it's Dutch Forks to lose, but there are some really solid teams right behind them, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think we've seen, and I won't mention any names so we keep a little intrigue. But there's a lot of teams that play some really good defense.
Yeah.
In 5A.
Yeah.
Dutch Fork does it better than anybody else. But man, if you could get some takeaways, if you could score on defense, we've seen some of these programs here in 5A, right? Win some close ball games with special teams, with some defense. If you have a 20 point game, sub 20 point game, 1 or 2 odd plays. We saw an odd play, over at Dutch Fork High School that, kept Irmo in the game for a long time. It could take just one play, 1 touchdown, and boom, the game is tied. Or, that could be a 9-6 ball game. Touchdown wins the game. I think if there are a bunch of high-flying offenses, I think it makes it a little bit tougher. I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm saying in my head. I think it's probably 1, but
yes,
I think there's 3 other teams that can get to Orangeburg, and if they get to Orangeburg or if they get to that Dutch Fork game, have got a really, really good chance at just honestly getting a little lucky.
Yeah. There's no doubting that Dutch Fork. I mean, what's it, 8 of 9 at this point? It's it is what it is. So
yeah.
Just doing this for fun. That's why I have 3.
I like it. Any comments from the chat on 5A Division 1 or 2, Jerel, right quick? 3 teams, but DF over everyone. I think I agree with you there, Jay. I think they have to be the favorite.
Yeah.
Chris says 1. Chris did go with the 1. I like it.
Now, who is your 1, Chris?
Somerville Dutch Fork in the state title. Somerville gets embarrassed, says Chris.
I can see that.
That's all we got here.
Perfect. Well, quick look at the SCISA playoffs. We've got in the 4A semifinals, Augusta Christian and Hammond. Skyhawks continue to roll. We get a good matchup here, Northwood at Porter Goud. A good game a couple weeks back. Porter Goud really turned on defensively on the second. I think the Cyclones win again there. In 3A, our game of the week, Hilton Christian and Wilson Hall. And Northside Christian at Pinewood Prep. Pinewood Prep has just destroyed everybody lately. Northside Christian, though, has had a good season, just a newer team to SCISA there. I think the Panthers with Jeremiah Singleton win that game in 2A. Bethesda travels to Calhoun. Calhoun has been a sneaky 2A team this year. I think Bethesda a little too much talent. And then Greenwood Christian at PD. Greenwood Christian, a team that, plays some public schools up here, so it's kind of hard to get a good read for them, John, because not a lot of SCISA schools around them. Yeah. They've been really good in the SCISA ranks. I think PD, too many athletes. Maybe a closer game here. I think the Golden Eagles win that one. And then down in the 8-man ranks, Wardlaw against Richard Wynn, and then Lawrence and Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis, they've been rolling everybody. I think they continue to roll this week. And the Richard win. I think they beat Orlaw for the third time. It's hard to beat a good team 3 times, man. But the Eagles look really, really good right now.
Yeah.
Any comments from you, Jerel, before we shout out a couple of sponsors and give our pick'em winner for the overall season?
I missed a question. I'm sorry, Chris. I'll pop it up right now. Regarding Burns, this is kind of not a playoff question per se, but it involves them and their future. Chris kind of asked if they don't make it to the third round, do we think they'd make a change head coaching wise?
Man, that's tough. I don't know, because this year has been so tough for Coach Shaw. You got no home games. You're playing on the road every week. He's done a really good job, kind of getting this group to come together after a slow start there. But if you're Burns, also, are you like, hey, we want something new as we go into the new stadium? I don't know. That's a tough call there for me.
I think third round might be aggressive. I think if they lose Friday, that could be a very real possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But gosh, like you said, Kevin, it's such a tough situation that they were in this year with traveling on the road, and gosh, they were very competitive in games, especially down the stretch. They played better than I expected them to, and I think when you really look at it, and Burns people may feel differently. They may not want to say it publicly, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of Burns people are saying, man, we played better than I thought we would this year, considering everything. So when you take that into account, maybe Coach Shaw gets a little more leeway. But Chris, you're right. At the end of the day, though, you're Burns, and you don't want to be talking about, hey, let's win 1 or 2 playoff games. You want to be right there in the discussion. It hurts having to hear about Gaffney every week, Spartanburg getting hot. Nobody can beat Dutch Fort. You want to be part of that conversation. You haven't been the last few years. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens. I don't know. It will be interesting to know. And we'll, maybe we find out here in the next few weeks.
Now, Chris had a good point also to follow up with this question. He said it's championship or bust at Burns, which I agree with. But when it comes to the adversity he dealt with this year, if you asked me this question in week 4 or when they lost to Greer, I would say 100% yes. I think they're probably going to make a change. But the way that team has rallied behind him, and you start dissecting the adversity that they've been through, no home games, the amount of kids that they lost from the program, how they've played, fantastic defense, swapping through quarterbacks. I think Coach Shaw has done a commendable job this year, and I think he should have the opportunity to continue coach the Rebels.
Love it. I also forgot to mention the SCISA 1A games right quick. Sorry, guys. We've got Dorchester at Thomas Hayward, Beaufort at Williamsburg. I think Thomas Hayward and Williamsburg get wins in those 2. Jerel, shout out friends of the program to look at our pick'em results.
Preferred Home Services. How can we make you smile today? Preferred Home Services. For electrical or plumbing, cooling too. Go.
At HTC, we're here to keep you connected. Here to provide reliable fiber optic internet with free, fast, and secure HTC Smart Wi-Fi. HTC, here to connect.
Need a new ride to get you to the big game? Founders Federal Credit Union has auto loan rates that'll get you in the driver's seat without breaking the bank. And here's the best part. No payment for up to 90 days. Drive to victory with a loan that suits your budget. Visit foundersfcu.com/auto today and score your dream car with an auto loan from Founders. Terms and conditions apply. Member qualification required.
Let's look now at our pick'em brought to you by Hannah Engineering. Guys, remember we do a brand new playoff pick'em starting this week. Make sure you get in that. It's a new prize pool. We had a lot of 10s last week. Chris, David, Jaron, Ryan, Thomas, and Tyler all with 10. A bunch of 9s. I had 10. John and Jerel had 9. This may have been the first week I actually beat you guys this year because I have been struggling. But a lot of fun there. And then our overall winner, drum roll please, Charlie L with 82. I believe Charlie had been leading for the last few weeks, it feels like there.
Yeah, he's done very well.
Ryan, Pat, and Ben all at the 80 spot. Charlie had the 82 there, of course. David, Jaron, Daryl, Jay, Jeffrey all at 79. Then Corey, Richard, and Slick with 78. John, you led us. Actually beat everybody with 85 there. Jerel and I tie with 79.
Boo.
I got that one extra one on Jerel this week to tie him up, man. Love to see that. Sorry, Jerel. But hats off to Charlie. Big shout out to our friends at Hannah Engineer for that. Really appreciate that, guys. And like I mentioned, join our playoff pick'em. It's posted on our social media right now. Go join that. We'll do all the playoff rounds. We're not going to drop a week in that because there's just not but 5 rounds. So get into that. We'll have a prize for that winner as well. Charlie, if you're in here, I'll reach out, get your address here shortly, and we'll send you your prize there. Jerel, we're running low on time. I think we actually cut off at the 2 hour mark, so we're going to skip the polls live. I'll post the polls, the final regular season polls, tomorrow on social media. So be on the lookout for that. Want to shout out our teams of the week: Gaffney, Dutch Fork, Cane Bay, presented by Preferred Home Services. Our players of the week: SoMad Edie at Riverside, Troy Timko at Hilton Head Island, Javon Edwards at South Aiken, insured by the Georgia Agency. Once again, SoMad Edie, Troy Timko, Javon Edwards, insured by the Georgia Agency. Guys, I know this show was a little bit longer than we thought it was going to. We had some Facebook issues in there. Sorry about that. I think we held it together okay, though.
Yeah, we did the best we can.
Yeah, for sure. I think we dealt with adversity. That's the word of the day for this show. So it was a lot of fun to get it done. And go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You finish your and I thought about something. Yeah.
No, it was awesome. So I'm going to try to wrap this up really quickly so we can get out of here. 2 hours. This is the longest show we've ever done.
Well,
so.
I was going to say, that's why we tell you guys to subscribe everywhere. Like when some stuff like this happens, you can come over to Twitter. Yeah. You can come over to YouTube. You can check out the show. Appreciate you guys who joined over there. Subscribe to YouTube. Follow on Twitter/X. Obviously, like us on Facebook. Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS. Our website, movinchains.com. Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. I will try to either link the YouTube video back over to Facebook, or I'll download it and put the whole thing up there, one or the other. But definitely check it out once I do that. Apologies for that issue earlier. Had a lot of good comments. That was doing really well. I hate that happened like it did, but a lot of fun. Get your merch, like Jerel said there. Lots of great hats. Richardson hats there. A gray front, kind of a cream or black back. Got a black one up here too. Lots of really good stuff. Toboggans, gray and black. Hit us up on social media or at that email, mtcgear.sc@gmail.com. I've also posted these now on our website. We've got pictures on social media and on our website. You can see these. We've got a navy blue t-shirt, a black, a gray, and a pink as well. The hoodie John's wearing, got a stone ash hoodie, whatever you want to call it, a darker gray one as well. Really good stuff. Get your stuff. Support the boys. And I hope we see you guys at a game Friday. I'm not sure where we're going yet, but we went to Irmo Dutch Fork last week, had a blast seeing a lot of new folks, getting to meet a lot of new people. Lots of coaches and fans. It was really cool to see. A lot of friends really down there.
It's great.
A lot of fun. But anyway, can't wait for next week, man. The playoffs are here. Round 2 will be even better. But Moving the Chains is always brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. For Jerel, Hendricks, and John Epps, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our Round 1 South Carolina High School Football Playoff preview show here on Moving the Chains, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Get ready for the ultimate South Carolina high school football experience with Movin' the Chains. From previews to recaps, we've got you covered. Dive into our expert preview shows, predicting winners and sharing insights. Then join us post-game for the thrilling recaps, exclusive interviews, and highlights you won't find anywhere else. Plus, connect with fellow fans on our Friday night spaces on Twitter/X. No one covers South Carolina high school football like us. Join us at Movin' Chains on all